I think about a perfect observer, I often think about just machinery. A camera can record the visuals of light. It can record sound. It doesn't have any kind of consciousness or subjectivity to interfere with the perception itself. So a perfect observer is just going to be a lot like a machine, like a camera. We wouldn't ask a camera to interpret the scene and tell us if it was right or wrong. All it does is record. That's the perfect observer. If we want to evaluate what we see, we need a conscious agent. Some kind of entity with consciousness and memory to translate what has happened and what should or shouldn't be done and why. Of course, we have AI now, which is similar to human consciousness in some ways. Say you picked up the camera and you saw a hiker that stumbled down a nearby hill. So our consciousness says, hey, this is a video of somebody falling over the ledge, and I see the ledge right over there. So it's very likely that there's a hiker on the other side of that cliff that fell over. So at this point, one has to create a goal, or else the situation doesn't progress beyond this point. We have the observation, we have the evaluation of what happened. Now we have to have a goal. What are the options? Do nothing or save the hiker? So I'm not going to go into the ethical branching because I think you and I both understand that the different possibilities and options explode outwards for different reasons. Intent, things that could happen, and survival. What I'm trying to do is show the separation between an unbiased observation and a clear evaluation of the observation and how goals determine what paths to take from that point. Morality attempts to guide you in goal setting. What would a relativist do in this situation? A true relativist. Well, a true relativist couldn't set any goal over any other. They'd be paralyzed because no goal would seem more significant than any other. Some relativists out there would say, hey, we can choose between different paths and that certain paths do make more sense than other paths. Except that that's not the definition of relativism. Relativism says no idea or concept takes precedence over any other idea. I really think the one that can choose between different paths is the amoralist. Somebody who doesn't care exactly what the means are, but they have to set a goal in order to do that. But the amoralist goal is not likely to be a goal that you would want because it's likely only going to preserve the survival of the person who's making the decision. Because typically amoralists tend to be opportunists. So they're going to be more transactional. So a transactional person's basically going to say, what's in it for me to save this guy? Am I risking myself? How much so? Is there professional help nearby? Maybe the transactional agent's reaction is the safest and best measured. Maybe somebody who was emotionally involved in the hiker's tragedy would risk themselves too much and create an even bigger issue. Maybe the transactional agent would just put the camera down and pretend they didn't see anything. So we know humans' perceptive apparatus is directly connected to the conscious agent. Some agents selectively record what they see according to preset goals. So we don't have the luxury of an unbiased review of the available information from those who don't consciously check that with their observations. But that's what trying to be an objective observer is. Be as close to an unbiased recording mechanism as possible at the ground level. Then translate fairly what you've seen. Of course, I'll tell you, whatever goal you set, you should be seeking an everybody wins scenario first. Let's talk about moral skepticism. Moral skepticism is a philosophical view that questions the existence of objective moral truths or our ability to know them. It doesn't necessarily deny the existence of morality itself, but rather challenges the idea that moral judgments are grounded in absolute universal truths. Key points of moral skepticism: subjectivism. Moral values are relative to individual preferences or cultural norms. There's no objective standard of right and wrong. Non-cognitivism. Moral statements don't express genuine propositions about the world, but rather emotional attitudes or commands. Error theory. Moral judgments are inherently false because they presuppose the existence of objective moral properties that don't exist. Arguments for moral skepticism. Moral disagreement. The diversity of moral beliefs across cultures and individuals suggests that there's no single objective truth. The naturalistic fallacy. It's impossible to derive ought statements, moral claims, from is statements, factual claims about the world. The problem of moral motivation. If moral truths are objective, why do we need additional motivations to act morally? Criticism of moral skepticism. Intuitions. Many people have strong moral intuitions that seem to point to objective moral truths. moral progress? If morality is subjective, how can we explain moral progress over time? Moral realism. Some philosophers argue that moral facts are real objective features of the world, like mathematical or scientific facts. Moral skepticism is a complex and debated topic in philosophy with various forms and arguments. It challenges us to think critically about the nature of morality and our ability to justify moral claims. So if you're going to ask me if I think morality is objective, this is my answer. Morality is objectively founded, not subjectively created. These two ideas are not mutually exclusive. Moral ideals and principles cannot exist without reality, nor can they exist as objects exist. They exist as potential, but we know potential doesn't exist in the same way objects exist. So is morality objective? Not objective like rocks, trees, or mountains. Morality is a reaction to objects like rocks and trees and mountains. Therefore, it doesn't exist without those objects, nor is it a pure idea. So saying that it's either completely objective or completely subjective is a failure to capture all of the life that exists between those extremes. I mean, I could go as far as to say that morality is neither objective nor subjective, but a scale of everything between the objectification of the extremes. Morality exists as an inevitable potential that emerges given the reality that we have been determined to inhabit. Therefore, moral emergence is determined by distant first causes. If you guys like this kind of philosophical subject matter, help us out by liking the video and subscribing to the channel.